Good morning. Ooh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's me again, and it's great to see you all here. Hello there. So we've got quite a few people on the stream already. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to Ronnie, to Srikanth, Mahesh. Who else have we got here? Manlobu. Good morning, Manlobu. And H. Durelli. Is that H. Durelli? Is that Hussein Durelli? If it is, well, if it isn't, if it is, welcome anyway. Fantastic to see you here. Leo, welcome. Good morning. Oh my goodness, Graham Robbo, good evening. First time catching the live broadcast. It's great to have you here, Mr. Robbo. Graham, the man himself. Thank you very much for joining. Antonio Del Negro, good morning. Hey, Hussein, it is you. Amazing. What a fantastic surprise. Lots of lovely people. So it's Friday morning here in Manchester. I'm very tired. I don't know why. Well, it's been a long week somehow. I'm not sure. Came back from London last night and on a late train, and it's always sort of quite tiring. So I've got my coffee, but I've already finished it, or almost finished it. So you've got to bear with me today. So we're going to go for an hour as usual, and we got some interesting stuff lined up. So why don't we get started? One of the things I've sort of started to do now at the start of each stream, maybe I should just do it at the start of each Friday stream rather than every stream, is just highlight, hey Robert, good morning, highlight another live streamer. Live streaming, coding stuff, I find fascinating, and I learn lots of different things, and it's fun as well, and it's a bit of a community that's really, really growing. So anyway, let me just switch to my main scene here in OBS. And what we've got here is a person who goes by the Twitch handle of Robert Tables. I guess that's referring to the classic sort of SQL injection attack thing. Really cool. Real name David Poindexter. And I've been enjoying watching mostly catch-ups, mostly recordings of David's streams. I've got an inkling I've mentioned David, Robert Tables, before. Have I mentioned him before? I've started to make a list, because I'm getting very old, so I've started to make a list of people who are already mentioned. For example, Suze Hinton and Jeff Fritz and all sorts of other folks. And so I put David on there now. But anyway, he does all sorts of really cool stuff. Lots of different things, hardware and software. You can see here from from his About the Stream section on his Twitch homepage. And if you just look at the thumbnails of the recent broadcast, of a recording of the recent broadcast, you'll see he also does hardware stuff. Hardware hacking, as well as hacking on software in lots of different languages as well, with Python and some Node.js and so on. And notice he's also got a very nice mechanical keyboard. 10 points for the person who can recognize what that is, which keyboard that is. That was the first. Okay, thanks Robert, that was the first recommendation. Perfect. I thought, am I going mad? I'm sure I've mentioned him. I did look through all the annotation blog posts and I couldn't find it, but maybe I was sort of already, my brain was already half working when I was looking for it. Anyway, so that's David, that's Robert Tables. There's also, and I know I have mentioned this, but it's worth mentioning again, there's a tell you what, let me just put that in the stream as well, which is what I normally do. Here we go, there's a link to Robert Tables, there we go. And also, Robert is on this list here of awesome developer streams, which is like a curated list of other folks who do coding and live streaming, coding on a live stream. There was a ding there. What was that ding? No idea where it's coming from. I don't even know where my phone is. Oh, I don't know. Maybe the phone's behind me. So yeah, lots of people here to look at, but we'll pick a few out every now and then. There's me to have a look at. Okay, so that's that. Where else? Oh, I've just killed my chat here. Where I've killed my live stream dashboard. So we've got that. Did I paste the link to the awesome developer streams? my stream chat has disappeared, so there it is, back again. So just in case I didn't. Now, something that's, talking of live streams and things to watch video-wise, one thing that a colleague of mine, Marius Obert, who I'm sure you know, he wrote a really nice blog post. He writes a series of blog posts called Cloud Foundry Fun. Cloud Foundry Fun. Marius. There we go. Oh, there we go. Number 1. There we go. Marius Obert, and I think he's probably most recently tweeted about that thing there. Here we go. Cloud Foundry Fun. Anyway, there's Marius, and an ABAP stream. Oh, yes, Gregor. Welcome, Gregor. An ABAP stream is missing. Well, we've got the right people on there, Mr. Robbo and Gregor, and who else does ABAP here? Obviously, I've done ABAP for a long time, but I've not done it for a while in the more recent years. So I wouldn't claim to be a person to do an ABAP stream. So yeah, any volunteers to do an ABAP stream? That would be really cool. Here we go. Here's the post. He wrote about the job scheduler in Cloud Foundry and doing some some fun, pulling some football scores, soccer that is, from an API, and yeah, really interesting. So have a look at that. There's that football scores post. Mahesh, okay, is that you volunteering then? That would be awesome. The more live stream folks, the better, I think. ABAP rocks. It does ABAP rocks. It's like an old friend to me. A comfortable jacket that I can still put on now and again. I've not done for a while. I would love to find out from people, new stuff about ABAP. If you want to do your own live stream, that's awesome. If you would also like to sort of piggyback on this live stream and come on as a guest and show us some modern ABAP, that I think. What do you think? That would that be a good thing? Yeah. So I would be more than happy to be the container. Ooh, there we go. Container. I did that. I didn't do that on purpose, but that was quite a good link for something I'm going to show in a minute. To be the container, and you misheard and typed no live stream. Okay, no live streaming. That's fine. New ABAP stuff is a work in progress. Well, new anything is always a work in progress. So maybe Mahesh and Graham, one of you two or both, or anybody else, I can get you on and you can come and show us some cool ABAP stuff. Yeah, morning. Hey, morning, John. Good morning. Or Gregor, of course. Yes. So there we go. There's that post from Marius, and Marius pointed me to this repo in the SAP namespace called Fundamental, which is SAP Fiori Fundamentals. It's a component library. This is all about UI5 this is all about Fiori and a component library that can be used in other UI frameworks. And this is not about Fiori or UI5. What I want to show you is the fact that there's a nice sort of home page here, developed with Fiori fundamentals, but somewhere I did see, where's the link here? Here we go. They have office hours, which is quite cool. It's very trendy, isn't it? That sort of font there, sort of sans serif font with lowercase everything and a full stop. That's quite cool. So they have office hours, and they have sort of live streams like we do. So I'm going to paste that there. They've done 2. I'm hoping they're going to do some more, but it's definitely worth watching the recordings as well. I've not watched them yet. I've just really quickly had a scan through, but it's definitely something that's on my watch later list on YouTube now. So yeah, so last stream we talked about Scott Dillon and his developer garage with SCP, and we talked before that about Ivan Femia's from zero to cloud stuff. So we got another one here. That's quite cool. So talking of containing my excitement, this is a really a nice little pun from the VS Code folks. We can't contain our excitement. And this is something that Ronnie pointed out, was it yesterday, last night? And it's basically the ability to use VS Code to develop directly inside remote locations, containers, SSH destinations as well. So if you've got a remote server somewhere, you can use the SSH protocol, and it's also wrapped. It looks like it's all wrapped up for you in this extension to VS Code. So yeah, really, really, really nice. And I thought we'd have a little look at that before we move on to the main subject, which is a look at this project in the SAP Mentors namespace on GitHub, curated and driven, for in a large part by Mr. Gregor Wolf, who's on this stream. So thank you, Gregor. But we'll come to that shortly. And Gregor, I don't know how long you've got on the stream here, but yeah, I think it would be great if you were around when we're sort of talking about this, so you could tell us more. So let me catch up with this. It's similar to Bootstrap, yes. Yes. That's really cool. So okay, I had a quick look going back to the VS Code announcement. There we go. Ooh, that's a picture. There we go. Going back to this, I had a quick look at this page. Is that the normal size? It's quite small, isn't it? I had a look at this page, and yeah, remote development, an extension pack that lets you open any folder in a container on a remote machine or in a Windows scripting something. What's WSL stand for? Windows subsystem. Windows subsystem for Linux, isn't it? Yes. And take advantage of VS Code's full feature set. So we talked about containers on Wednesday when Nabheat was taking us through what he did to deploy the CAP, a simple CAP project to, first of all, to the Google Cloud Shell. But secondly, and sort of the whole idea was to deploy it to a container in Google Cloud Run, which was announced in Google Next 2019, a couple of months ago, a month ago, 2 months ago, whatever it was. And I've also recently been playing around with containers, and I'm sure other people have as well. And I think maybe 2019 is the year of containers. I'm going to say it like that. What I mean is that the more we look at and embrace and re-embrace the command line and the shell environment, like Ronnie was showing us as well on Wednesday. The more power we have at our fingertips, and the fact that things that we do now are not just restricted to our local machine, but we can spin up VMs, but also these containers, these sort of lightweight VMs. Containers, the Docker style containers are not full blown VMs, right? They use the Linux subsystem of their host, and so they've got these really lightweight sort of throwaway. Ephemeral, I'm going to use that word from Wednesday. These really light throwaway things that we can use. And I watched one of the videos here this morning, and it's so cool. I thought we've got to try this on the stream, right? Pure Magic, Windows subsystem for Linux, Pure Magic in Windows 10. A phrase I'd never thought I'd hear. So what I've done is I've actually seen that you need Visual Studio Code Insiders to use this extension pack. So I've blasted away my Visual Studio Code with a view to installing Visual Studio Code Insiders and then installing this remote development thing and having a go. So we'll spend 10 minutes looking at that, because I think it's really, really fascinating, and especially for the CAP stuff that we're doing, for example. So yeah, the remote development extension pack, you can do SSH remote type work in containers and the Windows subsystem for Linux. The best way to run Windows is to run Linux. The best way to run Linux is to run Linux, or something. So here we go. I've downloaded it this morning. Here it is, VS Code Darwin Insider. And so what we'll do is we'll install this, and we'll install this extension pack, and just to poke around and see what we can do, because I've also got. I've got some containers here. Let's just open up one of these sessions here. Docker image list. I've got some containers. I was playing around with building a Docker image. Sorry, I've got some Docker images. Yes, Docker images for CAP development. And this was, I don't know, a couple of days ago. 42 hours ago. There we go. Specifically 42. That's nice. With a view to thinking, well, if I'm going, I was going to practice my CAP code jam and go through it, make sure everything was still working, but I didn't want to taint that test by doing it on my local machine, so I wanted to spin up something, a virtual machine or a container to do that. So I thought, let's build one of those. So I've got here, in fact, if I go to my projects folder and have a quick look, I've got, where are we? Docker builds. I've got this build here where I'm using Debian and I'm installing a few sort of basic tools that I always use, which are Ranger, Unzip for unzipping VSIX extensions and so on, curl for grabbing stuff, specifically NVM, with which I can install Node, Git, of course, and the most important, Vim. Right, so that's that. And then on top of that, I've got this other thing called Docker build, which is where I use that Debian CAP image that I've just created and create a user in there and set up NVM so I can actually install Node. And then I install Node here on the last line. I install the latest long-term support Node. So this whole idea of using containers for various tasks, is something that's growing in my mind, and I think other people's minds as well. Graham, you saw something somewhere that showed how to install VS Code Insider's version alongside VS Code. Yes, yeah, I think you can. There's no specific reason that I uninstalled the standard VS Code, except I've been having some trouble, and I think folks on the stream would remember, having some trouble with one particular extension, which was a SQLite extension, and that just stopped working, and I uninstalled it, reinstalled it, still wasn't working. It wasn't showing me anything at all in the in the first column. So I thought, actually, well, I might as well. Maybe it's some problem with the VS Code install that I have. So I thought, let's use this opportunity. That's the only reason I've uninstalled VS Code, the standard VS Code. So anyway, let's go back there. So those are sort of Docker things that I have. So yeah, I've got those images. So CAP is the one. So if I say Docker run interactive with a TTY CAP, and give me a bash. In fact, I don't think I need that anyway. Give me a bash thing there. And so now I'm in a Docker container, and we did this, I think, in episode 2. I've set that wrong anyway. But I can say, have I got Node installed? Yes, I've got Node 10, which is the long-term support Node 10. So I can now say, for example, npm install SAP CDS, and start from there. So that was the whole idea of that sort of thing. Anyway, let's just minimize that, and I've got this. Here we go. VS Code, VS Insiders. I'm going to move that to my applications directory there. I almost said folder again. I've got this thing about directory and folder names. Yes, yeah, exactly. They're awesome until they're not. Although, I mean, that SQLite extension is the only extension I've had an issue with, and it could be me. I think VS Code is so awesome, and these extensions are so awesome that in this case, when something goes wrong, it's probably me, not VS Code. So anyway, I mean, I just can't believe the stuff that Microsoft are doing at the moment. It's absolutely fantastic. This, for example, this is not the Microsoft of this is not your father's Microsoft or your grandfather's Microsoft or your grandmother's Microsoft for that matter. I'm super impressed. And so we got code. So VS Code Insiders. There we go. So we got that. Where is it? Is it opening up? What's happening? Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, of course. This is the first time it's run, so macOS has to do some verification, I guess. And then we'll try installing it. Okay, yes, I am. I'm fine. There we go. Okay, so let's just move that over here. Awesome. So we now hit install. I'm just noticing here that this has got this VS. I'm pointing down. Well, I need to hover, but I'm pointing with that finger down here. The URL is one of these sort of special schemes, VS Code : extension, which is nice. So let's click on that. Click on that. Click. No. VS Code extension. I'm wondering whether that means this is like a standard button and a standard scheme that is normally used where you've got the standard VS Code installed rather than VS Code - extension. How do you invoke? Let's try that again. How do you invoke VS Code? Install? Yeah, it's not working. So let's go back to our terminal and let's open another terminal. Code. Yeah, so it's code. I used to be able to invoke it with code. Code insiders. There we go. So code insiders is the way to invoke it. Okay, cool. So maybe that's just not going to work for us. Okay, so in that case, let's download it, because the SAP VS Code extension for CAP and CDS is also a downloadable and installable extension. So in fact, I've still got it there. Download extension. Let's download it. And why don't we install it? Try and install it as a VSIX, and then we might as well also install VS Code 114, the CDS extension 114. So let's do that. Yeah. Okay. So here we go. Where are we? There. So my CPU, my fan is going crazy. The CPU is at 20% on. By the way, I've adjusted the bit rate on my settings on OBS to go from 4,500, which I think was a little bit high, stressing the CPU, to 4,000. So I'm not sure whether that has made a difference quality-wise. If the quality is not as good as it normally is, please let me know. Click on trouble installing. Trouble installing extension gallery. Manage extensions. It looks like nothing in Insider. I can't see anything. I mean, this is. I do also like the way that they organise their articles with a nice little sort of table of contents here on the right, and the bigger context on the left here. I can't see any sort of headings here. Recommended configuring command line extension management. Command line extension management. Install extensions. Yeah, we could do that with the command line. Install from a VSIX. We've got a VSIX. We might as well try this VSIX. Why don't we try doing it this way? Because I noticed, Ronnie, let me know. Was it in your dot files repo, one of your scripts? Did I see somewhere where you're installing some extensions into VS Code from the command line using this? I'm sure I saw it there. Let's try that. So let's go into the command line here. I think I've got a command terminal up here. Yeah, let's do that. So let's leave this Docker container. By the way, talking of Ronnie's stuff that he showed us, it's inspired me to create. And when I was looking at it before as well, it inspired me to create a set of scripts in a .script directory that I can eventually then use on all different machines. So now I've started to sort of put a few little one-liners here in the style of Luke Smith. So, for example, when I write my live stream annotations, I write them in Markdown and then generate them with Pandoc to HTML, and I can paste them straight into the blog system in the SAP community. And so I've got that here, and I just do a gen what's it called, gen anno post, and then the number, and it pulls it from the markdown source, etc, etc, etc. So I've got these things in here. I've got a couple of Docker things, remove all exited images. So that is actually using this sort of dollar and brackets thing that we looked at, I think, a few episodes ago. And then when I've actually been trying to create Docker images, and they've failed, they've sort of failed, and they sit there with none in the name. So you know, to just clean that up, I use this, which is Docker RMI remove images, and I go through all the images that I've got none in, and print the ID out, and then, you know, remove it. So that's how I use that. And Docker session is to start up a session, and this thing here is something I use to start up a new Docker container, you know, an instance of the cap image, which is what we looked at, and automatically, or not automatically, but, you know, explicitly expose port 4004 in the container to my host, as into me, to my laptop here, so I can actually access the stuff with the browser. No points for guessing what port 4004 is all about. I think we all know that by now. Yes, it is your Bootstrap macOS script. Yes, you bootstrap your VS Code. Ronnie, maybe you could show us or share the link in the chat to that script on GitHub for people to see. That would be cool. So yeah, why don't we try this? So let's say code, well, I'm going to assume we can do that as well. Code insiders install desktop, install extension, sorry. Install extension, desktop, what's it called? MS, there we go. MS VS Code remote, blah, 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 blah. Let's see what happens. Wow. Okay. That last line looks good. Extension VS Code remote has been successfully installed. That's quite large, that thing there. Let's just make it a bit smaller. Here's the extensions. Wow. This must, why have I already got CDS language extension and Vim? That must be from an old, when I blasted it away. Okay, well, fine. So we've now got that extension installed. That's really cool. Thanks. Yep, thanks, Ronnie. That's it. Okay, Graham, thank you for joining. I will hopefully see you on the next stream or a future stream. Maybe think about coming on and telling us about some cool ABAP stuff. That'd be really nice. So anyway, yes, we've got this extension installed. We've got CVS language support as well, which is quite unusual. It's in there. So maybe there's some sort of, you know, hidden directory that's got these extensions that VS Code picks up already. So we can now say, there's a little thing here, because I looked at this on the video, there's a little thing here. Let's just do what that is. Remote containers attached to running container. So if I now, well, why don't we do this once? The session, which will start up one of an instance of the cap image. So we've got a session there. I wonder if it'll pick it up. Let's see. Attached to a running container. Upbeat Vaughan. Okay. Well, I don't even know what the container's called. Why don't we have a look? Let's open up another tab for now. Or window, rather. Docker ps-a. Yes, there it is. Upbeat Vaughan. That's the one with this 4004 port forwarding from that D session script. So this is the one. This is the container. So let's try that again. Let's just bring that up. Attached to running container. Upbeat Vaughan. And opening remote. Oh, an error occurred. Cannot create directory root, permission denied. Maybe. Notice that here I'm using this sort of non-root user deliberately. Let me just come out of there and go into my projects folder. Have a look at this. Where is it? Docker builds. In my Docker file, notice here I'm using this. I'm creating a user and a group, so I don't like doing things as root. So why don't we instead, just for the last bit of this test, why don't we instead we say docker run interactive tty Debian, which is an image I already have locally. There we go. So we got one there, and now let's try that. It'd be great to see this working. Vigorous Chaum. I assume that's the one that's just been created. Wow. Okay. Installing dev container. Okay, so maybe it needs root to install some sort of, remote end software. Attached container. Blimey. So if we have a look in the files open folder, root. Wow. That's really cool. Hold on. So if I say touch or make dir banana, VS Code remote root banana. Wow. Okay, that's definitely something to play with. Okay, so oh my God, there's so much to play with and explore, because I think this is going to be super useful for us. Okay, let me kill that and that and that and that, and let's jump now to what I wanted to talk about in the main, which is this thing here. Now, I think Gregor is still around. So we've got Gregor to ask. Let me just kill that and that as well. There we go. Perfect. So SAP Event Registration App Backend. Now, I think everybody here, or most people here, will know about the events called SAP Inside Tracks, SIT. And Gregor, is it fair to say that you spearheaded the development of a ton of stuff in this area? So SIT or SIT-Reg is a project. This is the old project, by the way. In fact, let me paste the URL to this new project. This is the important one. But we'll just look at the one that's referenced, the old one, which is an SAP Event Registration App Backend, written, I think, using XS Classic, if I'm not mistaken. And there's all sorts of different facilities and ideas and models which basically represent the stuff that goes on when you're organizing an SAP Inside Track. So there's a participant, this idea of a participant, a list of participants, a receptionist, I didn't know about that, that's quite cool, and an organizer. And there's an app, or a series of apps, a series of UIs that have been used to sort of organize and coordinate SAP Inside Track events. And Gregor very kindly last night gave me access, or gave me the role of an SAP event organizer, which allows me to at least show you some sort of, to contextualize this whole thing, to show you what it's all about, to give you a feel. Yes, so Gregor, you started the project a few years ago while having no customer projects. The receptionist can check in participants on site using the ticket QR code. Awesome. Okay, so the check-in mechanism then will update something in the back end to say yes, they've appeared, they've arrived, they've actually turned up. Cool. Okay, so here's an example of one of the UIs that consumes some of the data. So we've got here different events, from in the past, ABAP code retreats. Hold on, let me just refresh that. That's been sitting there for a while, so maybe I need to re-authenticate. There we go. So we've got here an event, ABAP code retreat Vienna, a date. We've got information about how many people are registered, and therefore how many people are free according to the maximum. We've got the event master data, and I'm guessing also there's some co-organizers. It's really nicely designed. Nice one, Gregor. And a participant list as well. So maybe that data's not there for this particular event. But anyway, we get the general idea. Okay. What this is not about is the front end. What this is about is understanding what's been done for the back end. So this was the original back end. But since the advent of the cloud application programming model, Get again, Gregor. Oh, okay. I can't see the participants because I'm not the organizer. Okay, good point. Separation of duties. So there's now a re-implementation, if that's the right word, of the backend for sitreg in cap or capm. Hence sitregcapm. So why don't we have a look at this? I really haven't had much time at all to look at this, so this is completely going to be from scratch. But and Gregor, I may be putting words into your mouth here, but I think it'd be really cool if we could look at this as an example project, and rather than continue necessarily with the North Breeze. I think we've sort of got to the stage where the North Breeze app has been useful to us to explore basic stuff. We might as well work on something that's worthwhile. So if you've got time and you want to play about with cap stuff, then I think this is not a bad idea to have this as a basis to work on. But anyway, let's explore it. So we've got here, and so Gregor, I'm going to go through this as a new user. So documentation here. I think many of us who are on this live stream are fairly familiar with this, so we don't need to go through in detail. Of course, yes, CDS is in the SAP NPM registry, and I would suspect that most people on the stream have already installed the SAP CDS command line tools. So we won't do it now because there's probably still some messing around with this new extension for VS Code insiders, but it would be really cool to try this inside a container. I might have a play around with that next week. So why don't we do this? So let's download or clone the repo. Okay, let's go that. Let's get rid of the activity monitor. There we go. Perfect. How's my CPU? Oh, CPU's down to 17.9% now. So that's more normal. Okay. So let's open a terminal. Let's have that in the middle. How's that looking on the thing? Oh, perfect. Yes. And let's go into temp for now. So we can always throw it away afterwards. Git clone of that. Perfect. And I'm so used to typing code. Alias code equals code insiders. We're going to be doing this in code insiders. Oh, we don't want to use code. One sec. We want to go code sit. There. Let's have a look. Okay. So while it opens, perfect. It's a long time since I've seen this welcome page. I must have configured it not to show in my normal VS Code. Extension wise, we've got the CS language support, which is good, and of course we've got the most important, which is my Vim emulation for VS Code, so I can type things properly. So there we go, we've cloned that, navigate to the folder and execute the... Okay, so actually before we do that, let's have a quick explore before we carry on. So this looks all familiar, doesn't it? We've got the .vs code directory here, which is generated by the cds init command, of course. We've got our familiar, conventional names for the two lumps to our backend. We've got the DB directory and the service directory. Inside there, some internationalization. That's quite cool. We did some internationalization stuff on a previous episode, didn't we? I don't know whether Fabian is in there. I remember we were talking to Fabian about that. We played around with that and we added some internationalization to the actual backend service, as opposed to, we did look at this as well, but as opposed to internationalization for any UI, any front-end app. Same theory, same concepts entirely, same mechanisms really, but anyway, which is cool. Some CSV data here. XCSV. So I'm guessing you're doing that because that's in there because you're sort of like, we want to sort of comment that file out for now or something. As in, this is not a CSV file, so that the automatic CSV loader won't recognize it and added. The interesting thing here is, of course, that this is part of, I'm guessing this is part of a localized set of data for event types, because of course we've got the event types data here, which has, maybe it's a little bit bigger. Why don't we make it full screen? There we go. Which is a little bit, code and name. So event type I is SAP Inside Track and so on. Oh, hi Fabienne. Ah, yes, absolutely. Yes, we did cover that. Oh, this is really cool. Almost like we planned it. Good, good, good. And then we've got the event types underscore texts, which is, I guess, yes. Okay, so it's like, you know, a language specific table. Almost like a T table in the good old ABAP stack. Yes, perfect. A localized version of that. So we've got I inside SAP Inside Track in English, and then I, okay, that's a slightly boring example. Okay, here we go. How about O for other or andere, other in German? Yeah, okay, cool. So we've got the CSV files here, very nice. So is it me, or is it quite nice, if not rare, to see, you know, an early project in its early stages already with some internationalization? I think is that maybe the enterprise mentality in us here? I'm not sure. Good morning, Expo Code. Nice to see you again. How are you doing? How are you doing? Great to have you on the stream. Yeah, we're just looking at. I was going to say, well, of course, I'm going to say we're looking at Gregor's sitregcapm project, but of course, looking at the repo itself. Well, in fact, why don't we look? There's already a number of contributors. Gregor Napheet, amazing, and Christian Lechner, Balbino, and oh, Mark as well, amazing, and Matthias. Which Matthias is that? I'm not quite sure. Wow, okay, this is fantastic to see. So let's see some more contributors. I think that would be really cool. But I'm going to call it Gregor's project, just because I am. So anyway, let's go back and have a look. We got some CSV here, organizers. Okay. Oh, now Pete, you're an organizer. I guess this is like test data. Excellent. And we got also another pair of tables here. You know, a localized version and relations to SAP. Okay, fine. Yes, just fork and send pull requests. Exactly. Okay, so we're in there. Funny noise coming from somewhere. Anyway, we've got CSV files and we've got the data model. Let's look at that. Let the dog see the rabbit, as they say. And we've got all sorts of. By the way, I've noticed that I'm going to, yeah, my VS Code, my previous VS Code had the Dracula theme extension. When I started out live streaming, I took a lot of clues from Sue Sinton, No Opcat. And she uses the Dracula theme. I thought that's really a cool theme, and I stole the idea from Sue's. It was really nice because I got a theme for the terminal and theme for VS Code. I haven't got the theme installed here, which is why it's looking a little bit different to me. But I quite like it, so maybe I'll be a little bit more independent and branch out and use some different themes from now on. Let me know whether that will excite you or not. Good morning. Michelle's just come in and she's going, shh, to me or to yourself? Shh. Good morning, Michelle. I think Michelle's been out and about somewhere. But anyway, yes, what have we got here? We've got some underlines here, but, of course, yes. I think I know why that is, but let's come to that shortly. And we've also got our service folder, and let's move this outline out of the way. Yeah, we got pairs of CDS and JS files. So we got an admin service with a corresponding implementation. Let's call it that. So let's have a look inside that, for example. Ooh, nice lot of detail in the admin service here. Ooh, that's a bit odd. That jumps out straight away to me. Restrictions. Interesting. Update, I guess that's just a typo, right? And the admin service JS, okay, so that's just waiting for some custom implementations. And this is where we put, for example, where we want to override the standard implementation for this particular service for OData operations, or whether we want to hook into one of the different events like the before or the after, for example. So that's nicely organized. And I do also like the fact, and this sort of speaks to what we talked about in a previous episode, which is one of the best practices or one of the philosophies of CAP, and it comes from the chief designer of CAP and also the other folks in the team. Not only abstraction and sort of layering, so we've got the data model definition and we've got the service definition on top, but there are multiple services here by the looks of things, sitting on top of, well, there's only one data model CDS file here, sitting on top of the same data model. And obviously from the names, it looks like these different services are aligned towards different roles, which makes a lot of sense. Really cool. So in the organizer service, we've got here using everything in com. So in fact, DB data model, that is namespace com SAP Mentors sitregcapm. And in our organizer service, we're bringing everything in there, just calling it sitreg as a little alias, and sitreg event type. So the organizer service exposes the sitreg event types, relations to SAP, the events themselves, and here's some annotations. So this annotation here is basically saying that the events are not deletable. Now this annotation should appear when we run this, should appear in the metadata. So let's when we look for that shortly. And so these are fairly simple exposures of different entities, entity types. Excuse me. Some water. Entity types in the data model, which is nice. A couple with these read-only annotations here. That's cool. Have we got any? There's another implementation waiting to be filled up, and there as well. Okay. So this is early days, but I like the idea of preparing the way for having some customization. This file here, the .cdsrc.json. In fact, I'm sort of pronouncing that wrong, aren't I? I should be saying the CDSRC, especially given what Ronnie showed us in his demo on Wednesday. Of course, Ronnie showed us a lot of dot files, and we talked about the bash RC and the vim RC, and RC stands for run command, I think. We said that on Wednesday. So this is the CDS RC. So again, using the same sort of Unix philosophies, really nice. And looking at the documentation here, we won't go to the documentation now, but looking at the documentation, it tells us that this .cdsrc file it was almost like a fallback configuration file. There's the configuration possibilities in CAP are many and varied in terms of layers. Almost like if you think about, for example, CSS. So you can have CSS in a separate file. You can have CSS sort of in line in a styles element. Style open tag, style close tag, style CSS styles, and then you can actually have CSS actually inside a given tag. Style equals open quotes, blah blah blah, and of course they are in increasing levels of priority. So something inside a tag will override something inside a styles element, will override something in a file, right? In the same way, there's a concept in CAP of configuration, even down to you can actually configure, you can set values for configuration parameters, let's call them environment parameters, or environment properties, that's a better word, on the command line with environmental variables, which will override settings in your package.json, for example, and they will override settings in, for example, CDSRC. So these are basic sort of fallback settings. I'm guessing also that the .cdsrc.json file was generated by the cds init command. So Ronnie, what are you saying here? Oh my God, it just hit me, QMacro, your status bar looks like the Windows XP taskbar and start button. it does, yes. It does. Well, I'll take your word for it that it does, because it's been so long since I've run Windows. I don't know. I think the last version of Windows I ran was Windows XP. So yeah, I'll take your word for it. Jasper BTSJ, welcome. Thanks for coming on and saying hi. Great to see you. So we're just looking at Gregor's sitregcapm project here. So we've got the project, and yeah, we've got all sorts of different stuff here. The README. Okay, so why don't we have a look at these things here? I think what we need to do, of course, to fix this, is to install some stuff, because look, we're saying using SAP from SAP CS Common, using language code country manage user. So we're bringing in stuff from the SAP CDS Common, these reuse types. But of course, if we hit F8, which I'm going to do here, artifact SAP has not been found. CDS ref undefined. F8 to here. Cannot find package. Do I do a shift F8? I can't remember. We can go back or forward. F8. Cannot find package module SAP CDS Common. Basically, we haven't installed SAP CDS yet. Okay, so we just clone this thing here. Exactly. So let's do that now. Let's open up a terminal. View terminal, integrated terminal. And there we go, perfect. npm install. In fact, why don't we say here npm list depth equals 0. Is anything installed at all? No. Yeah, of course it's not, right? Okay, so perfect. npm install. And I actually wanted to keep that. Anyway, let's just let this install happen. Fetching data for better TypeScript IntelliSense. Amazing. Okay, so what have we installed? Let's have a look in the package.json. We've installed SAP CDS at 3. This is a Semver thing, isn't it? I always thought that meant equal to or greater than, but that doesn't make sense at all. And then I thought it meant greater than, but why would you say greater than 3.5.2? When I looked it up, it actually means npm package.json semver. It's a semver thing, isn't it? Semantic versioning, npm semver carry ranges. Oh, these are ranges. Greater than equal to 1, 2, 3, and less than. Ah, right. Yes. Okay. Perfect. So that means greater than equal to but less than 2. That makes sense. So 3.5.2 CDS version got 3.5.2. That's interesting. I would have expected it to install 3.7.1 then. Why am I thinking that? If that's the case, carry ranges. Oh no, this is a carry range. npm. Oh, thanks, Jasper. Thank you for following, by the way, as well. I didn't want to suggest it. I didn't want to sort of make you follow, but it's it's always useful to follow to get notifications of when the live stream's happening. So thank you for following. npm carry meaning semver. Oh, here we go. What's the difference between a tilde and a carry? Tilde and carry, or the latest patch version. Ah, if you see 102, it means to install version 102 or the latest minor patch version, such as 1.1. So that's major, that's minor, and that's something, isn't it? Is that right? Hey, Napit, welcome. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Yes, you can watch the replay. Got some really cool stuff on the replay. The VS Code Insider Edition. But anyway, so I would have thought that would have installed 3.7.1, right? Anyway, it doesn't really matter for now. So the data model, it's still giving us some errors, but I think that might be a VS Code. This of course is VS Code Insider, which is like a beta version. So maybe there's some sort of issue going on. Let's just see if we can sort of trigger. There we go. Yeah, okay. Trigger a sort of a language server call to say, let me just check this again. So now we fixed that. Oops, we fixed that because we've of course installed SAP CDS, which means we've installed all the node modules, and the SAP CDS common is now available. Really cool. Thanks Hussein. Major.minor.patch. Yes. Okay. So that means, does that mean, or the latest minor or patch version? Okay. So yeah, that would suggest that it should have installed 3.7.2. Interesting. Anyway, we'll play around with that maybe another time. One really interesting thing that we haven't seen on this series here, looking at CAP, is these enumerations. Really nice use of enumerations here. So I'm guessing, yeah, these are general types here. And I guess in terms of thinking about, if I was to start hacking around with this, what would I like to do? It might be nice to put these types in a separate file, because then we can maintain them separately and everything, rather than have them in one big file. I don't know. Maybe that's the plan anyway. Gregor, that's a really good question. Doesn't the CDS command here show only your global installed CDS version? No. We found out, and we've done a live stream on this, haven't we? Somebody remind me if you remember. I think I need, I need to make. I've got all these annotation blog posts that talk about the details of each live stream episode. But what I think I also need for myself is another blog post with a summary of maybe keywords, because I remembered looking at this, but I don't know which episode it was. I mean, this is episode what, 23? Yeah, so we've done, this is our 24th episode. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that I can't remember which one it was, but we did look at the CDS bootstrap mechanism and found that it looks, first of all, when we run CDS inside a CDS project, it looks to see if there's a local CDS that it can run first, and if not, go to the global one. So if we have a look, in fact, can we find that here? Node module .bin CDS. There we go here. There we go. Yes, there it is. So in the CDS run, in the CDS executable, which is a symlink, of course, to cds.js, symbolic link, we get this bootstrap thing here. Try to find a locally installed CDS, otherwise launch this one. And that, of course, is true for the globally installed one. So if I say, for example, here, in fact, why don't I do this? Well, yeah, if I open up a terminal, which is here, and I'm not in a CDS project right now, I know that I've got CDS version 3.7.1 installed. So if I say CDS version, there it is, 3.7.1. But if I say, if I go into temp and say CDS init X, well, this is not going to help us anyway, because we're going to get 3.7.1. CDX, CDS version, but that's a version from locally inside here, but it's the same. That's a stupid example. But here's a better example. Like we've just seen, SAP CDS is 3.5.2. So 3.5.2 is the local one. Yeah. Okay. Does that make sense? So now Pete is saying yes, inside CDS project and other different versions of it. Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, already. Where did that time go? It's 2 minutes to the hour. Okay, well, let's carry this on next time. If there's one message you take away from this one is A, DJ talks too much, but B, let me just put the link in the chat again. Go and start exploring this yourself. And Gregor has just said the codeless entity is defined here because of this bug. Ah, right, okay. So let's bring that across here, have a quick look. Okay, well, I'll look at that as well and try and understand where that's from. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining today. Really cool. I hope that was useful. There's a lot of, a bit of a mixed bag, but there's so much to explore, so much to play with. But I think next Friday, there's no midweek episode next week because we only do it every 2 weeks. Next Friday, I think we should carry on looking at this in a little bit more detail. Gregor, if you're around next Friday, that would be also awesome. So thank you for joining. Have a great weekend. It's a bank holiday weekend here in the UK, so I'm off on Monday. And I'll see you back online on Tuesday. Thanks very much.